to do a video about part of the theme from Lawrence of Arabia. A friend of mine sent this to me and we were talking about it, and I wanted to put the chords on the guitar, see how they sounded, because they sound really good on the orchestra. It's a really sort of unique tonality that seems to come up every time there's like a desert scene in a film or something. I wonder if it's because they're all copying this, but it's very effective. So some of the ideas for the chords, I'll talk about how to put them on the guitar and how they go together. But this first chord, it's sort of coming from a D major sound, just a D major triad, you can say here, with the third in the bass, and that is going to accent some of this bass movement. So we've got 9, 7, 7 to make that D major triad with the third in the bass, and then a melody on top. There's 10 and 10. Now the next chord, what's going to give it that interesting sound is it's an E flat major. So we're just going bringing that triad up one, that sound. So I'm going to swap the fingering here though. And the melody note's now going to be 8. So we've got 10, 8, 8, 8, 8, 11, 9 there. So that's making now an E flat dominant 7, because this note on top is the flat 7 of E flat. So you've got the fact that it gets a bit of extra mileage out of the chords by putting the third in the bass this time, and then it pretty much repeats the same concept but with the root in the bass afterwards, so it gets a bit more mileage out of the same idea without repeating it exactly the same. So this kind of tonality, if we just think about say this D major to this straight to this E flat major and back, what it kind of makes me think of is just how I'm hearing it is this scale. I think it's called like Phrygian dominant, which is well, the sound is kind of like which I think of this as basically a G minor, G harmonic minor, so it's got the raised 7, but we're treating the 5th of that as our root now, which in this case is D. Basically, so you're going to have a major chord there. The reason why it's called Phrygian dominant is if it was G natural minor, then the 5th of that would be the Phrygian mode. So you can think of it as like the 5th of G harmonic minor, just to get a kind of an approximation of that sound. I mean, obviously it's not strictly that, but because there's this note here, but I like that kind of sound. It comes up in, you know, films and desert scenes and things like that, but that's just what it made me think of as like a sort of approximation in a scale. But you've got, so D major to E flat 7, which this note, the flat 7 of that, is actually not in that scale. And then you're going to repeat basically the same chords. So E flat. So that's E flat, triad, kind of, if you like, C shape. So 6, 5, 3, 4. And if you can, this comes up a bit, just flatten that third finger down and you get actually a C minor chord with a third in the bass. Then it's not that it really needs to be thought of that way, but that's just why it has that slightly darker sound when that note comes in. And then just hold well, so what we've got so far is here I'm just going to play an E flat kind of bar chord, E flat major. So that's 6, 8, 8, 8. And then the melody note goes from the 3rd to the 6th of the chord, which is just the same fret on top. And to here, but over this. So the bass note's going to go up a half step, and we're going to do this diminished shape here. It's like E diminished. And the melody's going to go, so you've got 7, 8, 6, 8, 6 for this diminished shape. And the melody's going those notes. So if you just play the notes of the chord in that order, it'll bring out the melody. And then back to D major with this note, this A note on top, which is 10 on the B string. So far you've got line that you can hear kind of go up in the middle. So from this chord, you might just want to play it 3 notes, and then this note in the middle going to go up a half step, and again. So you've got. Fingering, but you can get away with it. This way is obviously the way to do it. And then what's actually happening, I think, from the sound, I'm not seeing the score or anything, but just from listening to it, is this A7 voicing like this, which comes up a lot in like kind of orchestral writing. It doesn't, not so much on the guitar, but has a cool sound. Think of it like, you know, an A chord like this, just lowering the root whole tone to become the flat 7. So it's a dominant 7 chord with the flat 7 in the bass. So you've got but what I've made a slight change here to make it fit kind of nicer on the guitar, because this chord, as you can see, is not that conducive to being sustained and holding a line on top. You could do the line like this if you really fancied a stretch, like, and get this 7th fret on the high E with that, but I'm not too thrilled about that. Or you could move the whole chord up here. But that seems a bit tenuous unless you really work on it or you really want to have that sound. And I'm not too thrilled about the tone of the low strings all the way up here sometimes. So what I've done, I kind of changed this, and I add this a half step up again, and I do this voicing, which is the same but with this 5th raised now. So now it's an A7 sharp 5, and that allows you to play really easily on top that line like that, and it leads perfectly back to the D major. So you've got 5, 1, kind of like a regular 5, 1 in D major. So yeah, a lot of this half step quite a unique sound. This thing, this half step thing that keeps coming up. This here, to me, when we've got this E diminished to D, and then kind of makes its way eventually to an A7, you could kind of think of this, if you want, as like, if you want to make a bit of sense of it, like a bit like the chords are going E diminished, or it's almost like E minor 7 flat 5, A7 D, like 2 5 1 or something, but with a stop off on the D chord on the way, just because of the lines. So this sharp 5, I'm resolving it. I'm not playing this note here. I'm playing the third of the D because it kind of flows nice to that. I'm not thinking about the voices too much. I think you can get a nice big sound on a guitar sometimes if you get the chance, just double some of the notes in the octaves and you get that, you know, that kind of organish sound. But yeah, it's a nice piece of music, and that's kind of how I thought about trying to fit the chords on the guitar and trying to emulate some of those lines. But that's just from what I've got from listening to it, so there's probably some more stuff in there if you wanted to find the score or something. But hopefully that was interesting or useful. Thanks for watching.